Stan Zimmerman, hello, my friend. How are you?
Hi, it's me, Stan.
You do that a lot, I bet, don't you?
I'd have to, yes, and I have to sign that now. It's a cute little thing I can sign as well.
Exactly. I love that. Well, Stan, okay, so I gave you and I did an intro talking about the anniversary of the Golden Girls and who you are and obviously the girls and the legacy and all of that. But I want to know first off, like I guess my first question is how do you feel 40 years on this very special anniversary?
Tired. No, it's so exciting. It's unbelievable in a career to have one hit, but actually have Golden Girls, and it's also a big anniversary for Gilmore Girls.
Mhm.
It's,
Which you
I
also wrote
feel
on.
Yes, I did, season 5. I feel very lucky and to have had that experience as such a young person and to really, I think of Golden Girls kinda as my, like, college writing, learning how to write sitcoms because it was only our 2nd job,
Yeah.
and you're just thrown into a really high pressure, um, experience because we knew even at that age that nobody was settling for just any joke. It had to be the best of the best jokes.
Yeah.
And so there was pressure and Tony Thomas and Paul Witt were in the room to make sure that the jokes were of the highest quality. Susan Harris was not in the room at all. So the talk back then in season 1 was that she had Epstein-Barr,
Mm.
an autoimmune
Yeah.
disease. So she was never really around. She came in, I think, for the group picture at the end.
Yeah.
Obviously, she was at the wrap party, and the weeks that her scripts were just her name was on it, we couldn't touch them.
Yeah,
So
of
that was like
course.
a week
Why
of
would
like,
you?
why would you want to? The
Yeah.
only thing we had to do was actually trim things because of time. Because as the show went on the air, at the beginning, nobody knew who those characters were. You have to go
Yeah.
way back to that first season. And so once people started um, learning kind of like, oh, well, what was the relationship between Dorothy and Sophia and, how they dealt with Rose and Blanche, then people just started coming in and they were ready to laugh. Sitcom world is called a laugh spread. And it's how long the laughs go. And sometimes if you watch some of those episodes, like in a stage plays, the actors had to freeze because the laughter kept staying and going on and on and on, which you don't really see in many sitcoms.
Yeah. Well, I wanna give some background. So when you said, you're the person you wrote with, it was James Berg, right? That you were
James Burke, yes. I
yes.
met at NYU. I was
Mhm.
an acting student, he was journalism, and we started writing together in college in between classes and after school jobs. I was sick of being poor in New York, which is very difficult, so I moved to
Yeah.
LA, at least where you had the sunshine,
Yeah.
and luckily, within 6 months, we got on staff for, ABC TV series. It didn't last long, but, then 2 seasons later, we were suddenly watching the pilot of Golden Girls, which is what you do when they ask you to come in and pitch stories, and it was for a freelance episode on Golden Girls. The show hadn't been on the air. They were just starting to film 1 or 2 episodes, so Jim and I, because we were brought up properly and, to do your homework, we would go to those free tapings and got to hear the voices of those characters because they were not on the air yet, and I think that really helped. So when we turned in our first draft, I think the staff was amazed, like, "How do you know how these characters sound just from
Yeah.
the pilot?" I don't think they knew that we had gone to all the tapings, and so I think it was only 1 or 2 that we got to go to, and they were so happy for a staff to get young writers to be able to do a first draft that is really close is pretty near impossible, and that was the one that brought us onto staff, and we got nominated for a Writers Guild Award.
Well, and so I wanna give some context because I feel like there's a lot of one of the things that I find and you and I, we're friends, full
We go
disclosure.
way back,
Yeah,
yes.
I am biased, I'm a fan of Stan Zimmerman, so I can't be objective. But I will say that as sort of people in the Golden Girls sphere world, fandom, if you will, there there is, I think, with a lot of newer fans, sort of this understanding that it's this queer friendly show and it's this inclusive show about older women, but in reality, the staff, there weren't that many gay people writing on this
There were
show, which
no
I
gay people. There
well,
were
except for
no gay
you.
people. Me and Jim were the only ones, and our representatives at that time said, "Do not tell anybody on staff that you're gay." I think the idea was that if they found out that we might get fired or not get asked back, or and it's so silly when you really think about it, like, why? Like, what about us? What would that have made a difference? But that was just the time spec. And it was only Estelle Getty that kind of had good gaydar. I think because of her years doing Torch Song Trilogy and being in New York theater, and right away she was like, "I know about you two," and she pointed it out on the side. She pulled us aside and said, and but that was really sweet because it made us feel like we had an ally there and somebody that would look out for us. And then that just bonded me and Estelle, and we talked all the time. And even after we were no longer involved in the show, we would always check in, or she would call and say, "Do you want to have dinner with me?" And I would get very excited, thinking I was going to have a private dinner with Estelle Getty. And I would get there, and there'd be a table of 20 gay men, all from the different casts of Torch Song Trilogy. But I didn't mind. I was still sitting there with Estelle. But the private phone calls are the ones that I really cherish, when she would kind of take on the Jewish mama role, and, you know, be free with her advice on what I should do in my personal and professional life.
She really had that. I mean, everyone I've talked to who knew the girls, worked on the show, and especially gay people who were in anywhere near the sphere of those 4 women, Estelle Getty really had that she was that sort of Jewish mother to a lot of, and then you have to remember, for people listening or watching, like, in the 1980s, A, being gay was not necessarily the most popular thing in the world, and B, there was an epidemic killing so many gay men, particularly gay men, and to have someone like Estelle Getty in your corner, that must have meant so much to you.
Yes, and she was one of the few actors that would go to those AIDS benefits at the beginning. And people thought on staff, when she would do the tapings and she'd forget her lines, people thought, well, she's too busy out going to benefits or premieres because she was a star suddenly, in her 60s. Um, but really, she was starting to experience early onset dementia. But we are so grateful. And I'm actually working on a one woman show about Estelle and
Oh,
talking with her. Yes, who should play her?
I don't know. That's a good question, actually.
Real Perlman would be good.
Korea would be
When she
wonderful.
read, yes, okay.
Oh my god,
Um,
yes.
yes, that's just, one on my list. But, talking with her sons and her managers, uh, Dave and Juliet, I just learned a lot of different stories about her, and then hearing things about even, when AIDS started to happen while she was still on Broadway in Torch Song, and cast members would get sick and have to drop out of the show, and she would go to the hospital bringing chicken soup, thinking that that was gonna make them feel better, and people had to say, "Estelle, this is not that. This is an epidemic, and we don't even know why." I mean, I remember when I moved to LA, people warned me. They said, "Be careful there." It was just the beginning of it, like, "Be careful." So you move to a new city, and it's like you can't touch anybody. Like, you were very scared.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's yes, that time, I hear stories and you just can't. I mean, I think it's important to keep telling the stories, but also I love that The Golden Girls is such a touchstone for so many people. I mean, the girls always, we say the girls lovingly because they're just, that's what we call them. But like, for people who are new to the Golden Girls, which, where have you been? But the girls were, they would always share the stories about how gay bars in the late 19, well, when the show was running, that on Saturday nights, gay bars for a half hour would basically stop so that they could watch the Golden Girls.
Would go down to Santa Monica Boulevard in WeHo, and it'd be, like, dead on the street. No one's there because 'cause they're all inside, and I do have to admit, I would go in and, tell the bartender, "Well, I do write on that show, and I got a few free martinis out of it,"
I
I'll
hope
admit it.
so.
I'll admit it, use it while you can. That's the
Yeah.
less kids.
Well, like, so for you, having during your time on the show, is there an episode that you worked on or that you wrote, or any, even if you didn't, that stands out to you from your time on the show that really represents for you, what's best of the Golden Girls and your involvement with the Golden Girls?
Well, of course, I'm going to say one of mine.
Yeah.
Blanche and the Younger Man, only because that was the first episode we did. It got us on the show. But then the week of filming, Bea Arthur's mother passed. And everybody said, we'll, cancel filming and we'll put it on another week. And B knew that would cost production like a lot of money. You can't just like studio time and all everyone's job.
Yeah,
And
and
because
she's
she
theater through and through. She is like,
couldn't,
you get the
yeah,
job done.
the show must go on. That was
Yes.
that was the motto of the theater. There's no mental health days.
Yeah.
I just don't feel good today. It was you do the show, and she said no. Let's keep doing it. But when I watched the show, and there's that specific scene in the kitchen when Estelle and B are sitting at the table, and Sophia says to Dorothy, "Thank you, for treating me like a woman and not like a kid." And when I watch that now, knowing if you really look carefully, B cannot look Estelle in the eye. I
Mm.
think it was just too emotional and she has to kind of look away. But when I even talking about it, like the hairs on my arms stand up, it was such a beautiful moment when you could just see her being so open with her feelings. So that taught me a lot just about, how in life, you can't stop life. You have to keep going. And sometimes you have to put things to the side and say, all right, I'm going to film this episode. My trauma and grief are going to be there. And then I'm going to come back to it, at the end of the week or at the end of the day or whatever you have to do. Because, certain times, like B was starring in a show. So
Mhm.
people were counting on her to be there and to be fabulous.
Yeah, and she always was
Always
fabulous.
was. So it's a life lesson I've learned. I've passed it on when I direct plays, because sometimes people come to the theater to do a show that night and you've had something happen or,
Yeah.
it could be as little as, a flat tire, but,
Mhm.
and you get yourself worked up. And how do you put that aside for a second? Because people are coming to the theater that want either to laugh or have some emotion. And it's a tough lesson, but I got to learn it from B. Arthur.
I mean, that's a good lesson to learn. It's also powerful too. I mean, to me, one of the things that I think is so special about the Golden Girls and just really art in general is that it allows a community of people to come together with a shared passion of something, and they all come for different reasons, often to distract from the realities of their lives or even the trials of their lives, and really share in this enjoyment of this thing, this non-nuclear weird type of family, and just take 25 minutes out of their day to have a few laughs with 4 amazing women, which I think we kinda need more of, you know?
And it was also a lesson, and I feel like I'm doing it now more as I get older, about using stuff in my own life in my work. And it is so, as an actor, you're taught that when, because I would learn, the Strasberg method, and it should come from experience you've had. But now to put that in my work and to lean into it of like, oh, this is happening to me now. How can I fit that into a character? And it's very liberating, and it's you have as I tell my acting students, you have, all the keys to play. Don't just on a piano poke at one or two. You have the whole thing.
And those 4 women really are indicative of having done that in so many episodes. I mean, I watch Rue McClanahan in some episodes, and it's just like the emotions of that woman, the subtle emotions where you have this vain hypersexual woman, but then you see this vulnerable person in like these small little moments. It really is a lesson in acting. But I want to ask you, so like after you left the show, you of course went on to write on Roseanne and the Gilmore Girls, and you did many amazing things in theater
Bunch
and
movies
Brady
and
Bunch movies, so many amazing things. But what were your interactions with either the girls or with the Golden Girls in general, the show, after you left the show?
it was only Estelle that we kept in touch with. And then, like when I saw that Rue was doing a revival of The Women, do you know who was in that show? In that it was Jennifer Tilly and Jennifer Coolidge and Cynthia Nixon. I mean, it
Wow.
was star-studded, and Rue
I
McClanahan.
remember her in Steel Magnolias. That's what I
Yeah, but
remember. That
she did the
yeah.
big revival of The Women.
Yeah.
I was just so was tempted to go backstage, and but I was like, she's not gonna remember me. Or
No,
one
Stan,
time,
always go backstage,
always
always.
go. One time, Jim and I went to the movies in Santa Monica, and we hear this laughter of in front of us. These two old ladies were buying tickets and just like laughing their heads off. It was Angela Lansbury and Bea Arthur
What
just in
movie?
just in an afternoon going to the movies. It was like The Object of My Affection. Was that like Christina?
What a movie, what a good
What a movie.
movie.
So
Yeah.
I said I was with Jim and I said, "We're sitting a row behind them." We did, and but Jim wouldn't talk to them.
Why?
I think we didn't wanna interrupt them. They either had had a cocktail at lunch or they were they were having the best time, and I
Yeah,
think I watched the movie, but I was really watching them and what they were laughing at. It was
yeah,
like, I mean, it's known that they've had a long friendship since they did Mame,
yeah.
but you just never think of like, "Hey, B, you wanna go to a movie today?" Like,
I
"I'll pick you up
mean,
at 2." Like, how does
one
that
of
happen?
one of the saddest things that never happened. I mean, of course, we have so many moments with Angela Lansbury and Bea Arthur together, but I desperately wish both Angela Lansbury and Bea Arthur guest starred on each other's shows. I wish Angela had done a
Oh,
moment on Golden Girls and Bea on Murder She Wrote, because there's one episode of Murder She Wrote where 3 of Dorothy's men are in the same episode. Yeah. Jerry Orbach, oh god, yeah,
Zimmerman?
yes, and,
Yeah.
the other guy who played Jerry, the first Jerry before Jerry Orbach. Do you remember the boyfriend? I forget, he was
Oh.
early on, but it was the 2 actors played the same character and on The Golden Girls, and they were both in the same episode of Murder, She Wrote. It's kind of iconic, actually.
Somebody should write a crossover episode.
I know,
That'd
I'm
be fun.
dying for a fan fiction, maybe I'll write it.
Hey,
Um,
there
s
you go. Yes.
so, uh,
In your spare time.
in my spare time, not much of it. Years on, we're now 40 years in. What do you make? Because I have noticed over the years of doing Out on the Lanai, Golden Girls podcast, when we started that, the fandom for Golden Girls was pretty niche. It was big. Don't get me wrong. Everyone knew the Golden Girls. Golden Girls has always been big, but in syndication before podcasts and social media and all of these things, and before streaming, the Golden Girls, you would be hard pressed to go find a Golden Girls T-shirt at Walmart or Target or something.
Well,
It
they
was
didn't allow it. They
They didn't
didn't.
allow it.
Thomas said no merchandising, even all those drag,
Yes.
performances of shows. I remember I somehow found out, probably the early days of Facebook or MySpace, and, and I connected, and they said, "Oh my god, you're coming to New York, come to the show, you have first row tickets, we'll take care of you, you'll come up, we'll introduce you." I get off the plane, I go down to the theater, big sign, "Closed." Whit Thomas put the kibosh on anybody doing anything.
Yeah.
They did not want it to have that other life for some reason. I don't know why.
I think
And then
I think they didn't. I mean, I kind of understood, because in those early days, I feel like there was a disconnect between executives and how they saw these shows. They saw these shows as time capsules of just sort of representing, they exist on a DVD and in syndication, and that's it.
that's
And
it.
social media has given, and I think they've learned since the value. Disney, of
Yes,
course, has
now they
learned the
love it,
value.
and look at all
Yes.
the merchandising. It's
I
it's
mean, did
crazy.
we need the Monopoly game? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, some of it is crazy, and of course, I somehow get a lot of it sent to
Yeah.
me. So I have,
Yeah.
like, just, like, a box somewhere, like,
Same.
I don't know what I'm gonna do with it, but, um yeah, I'm glad that they're embracing it now, and I like that they're allowing, I mean, some of these drag groups, think it's fantastic when they do new stuff. When they do our exact scripts, it is a little odd to me that they don't credit us at all.
Yeah, that is
Oh,
strange.
that's just acknowledge us in some way. I'm not even like wanting to be paid for it. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe Disney is, but I think that helps feed into all of that and keep it going. But I have seen over the years, I just remember like there'd be a wave, and like suddenly I'd be out at and now we're back to West Hollywood at a gay bar, and there'd be young people that I'm like, you are too young to watch the show, but they knew
Yeah.
lines from it.
Yeah.
And then it'd be like another generation and another generation. But now it's exploded. It's not just like gay guys watching, it's
No, it's
little
everybody.
everybody again,
Yeah.
again, and again, and each new generation. And it's so cool to watch
Yeah.
that explode and be appreciated um, anew each time.
Yeah, and it does feel, I mean, one of the things that I think surprises one of the things that I love, just as sort of a person who loves pop culture, is there are very few shows. I've always said this. I think I recently interviewed Greg Daniels about obviously from The Office, but about his new show, The Paper, and I was saying how so often it isn't necessarily the shows that make the moment, it's the era in which they air that makes them so insanely popular, and I do think Reagan being president, the conservativeness of the 1980s, the AIDS epidemic, so many different things happening on in the 1980s played into the fact of people wanting to see an unconventional family on television love each other and do amazing funny things. And I think that's what really made the Golden Girls. But another interesting thing that someone recently, I was talking to an academic about why the Golden Girls is so popular with certain niche communities, primarily queer people, but also people of color, particularly Black people. And TV Land, even a couple years ago, I was doing something, and that was a demographic that was very large. And I didn't know this, but Golden Girls was around the same time block as I think 227 and Amen. And so there was this sort of lead in of an unconventional, non-typical audience for a show like The Golden Girls, primarily Black people, watching and then relating to and continuing to celebrate The Golden Girls in a way that I think is just so fascinating, but also so amazing that the girls have this sort of broad reach of audiences.
Well, to me, growing up in television watching Norman Lear shows, I mean, I love the Jeffersons. I loved
Yeah, yeah,
Good Time. And I liked back then, and, Sanford and Son was one of my favorites, and Flip Wilson, that it didn't have to be white people watch white shows, black people watch black shows, and they could all be on a network. It didn't have to
yeah,
be a black network, or white, like,
yeah,
this is the world. We're all in the
yeah,
world together, and where are there similarities, where are there differences, how great? I mean, and today, like, probably would not be an all-white cast, hopefully,
yeah, hopefully
although
not.
you never know.
Because if they ever did a remake, Loretta Devine would be in the remake of The Golden Girls, I'm
Oh,
just
I would
saying.
I would love that. There needs to
Yeah,
be a movie, though. There should be,
should
or
be.
we've
I
had
think
this idea of doing, like, a girls' trip where a girls' trip, Airbnbs that house in Florida, and suddenly
yeah.
they start becoming the Golden Girls. Yes.
I like that idea.
Don't
But
you write that.
I won't.
Yes.
I'll let you write it. You can
Thank
send
you.
me and I'll help with jokes. But
Okay.
so one of the things, another thing from that I think, and this is credited to your work and all of the writers on the Golden Girls work, is the thing that I love, and this is particularly an internet thing, pop culture internet thing, but the Golden Girls and the lines from the Golden Girls becomes the language of pop culture in a way that, for example, if you're a Golden Girls fan, you don't say the word lesbian in another way than Blanche does. Lesbian, or you hear some weird thing and you say interuterine, or you hear the name Miami and you start singing a song about Miami is nice. I'll say it
Or
thrice. Like,
you can't say I'm devastated as I'm devastated.
yeah, I mean, there are just so many things and that to me is what's so amazing about shows like The Golden Girls and the popularity of The Golden Girls is that it becomes the language of our lives in a lot of ways. Don't you
But
think?
when we were writing it, we were not you don't think,
Of
like, I'm
course,
gonna
you
write
don't think that.
for the ages, but, like, it's so weird, like, to have a line of mine on a T-shirt or a mug, and so many of them now, or even, like, the Brady Bunch, Sure Jam. Like, when we wrote that, I never thought it'd be like, well, we didn't even know what a meme was,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, that would be needed in our society to hear, but I think it's so super cool, and I grew up just loving pop culture, like you, I mean, I just ate up every bit of it. I was just like, "Where can I get it?" Like, in my little suburb in Detroit, like, I don't
Same.
care
In my little
what
suburb in
one.
St. Louis, I was there reading Entertainment Weekly, just trying to understand everything.
Oh my god, I made
Yeah.
my dad give me a subscription to Variety, and they're like, "Why do you want" and I was like a little kid, but when that came in, like, once a
Yep.
month or once a
My
week,
God.
I was just, like, memorizing it.
Yep, same thing.
Yeah.
I was getting, Vanity Fair, People Magazine, Entertainment Weekly, those and Premiere Magazine. Those were my 4 in the '90s.
People,
And
yes.
I still have a People subscription.
And Newsweek.
And Newsweek, yes, of course. No, my parents had Newsweek. I didn't do Newsweek. But
My
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 parents
parents, we had Time and Newsweek, and that was, where we got our real news, yeah.
that's where the serious news was. Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Well, so Stan, going on now, you have, of course, are doing amazing things. I want to talk for a minute about your book. You've done a great book that is every pop
Wait a
culture
minute,
nerd.
there it is.
There it is. Shocking. The every pop culture nerd needs to go get your book. So tell me about the book and why you wanted to write it and what the response has been for you.
So it's called The Girls from Golden to Gilmore, and it's stories about all the wonderful women I've worked with, and
And
Roseanne.
Roseanne.
And Roseanne. And my publishers and I, we had a big fight about where that should land.
I mean, put the Anne Roseanne on the back cover. Yes, of
I
course.
wanted it here, but they were like, "No, she'll get mad." I'm like, "And?"
Yeah.
Then
She gets mad
yeah,
at everything. She's blocked
put it
me on
up, yeah.
everything.
I
Yeah.
I I could take her.
Yeah.
So it really started with people kept saying like, "Why do you keep writing as a man all these female centric ensemble shows?" So
Clearly
I
they
want
don't know gay people.
they don't, and they didn't know that I grew up with a very vocal grandmother, mother, and sister, and I grew up as an actor, and I was taught to always listen. So I was always listening to them, and I just loved the way they communicated, and so I think I just wanted to tell stories like they would talk. And I was always surrounded this as a gay boy. My best friends were always women.
Yeah, same.
Back then we would talk on the phone for hours,
Same.
hours.
Yep.
Now when the phone rings, I'm like, I'm not home. I don't answer it. Like, what the hell is that? Um, but they also these young women supported me and made me feel like I was seen
Yeah.
and that I had a purpose in life and to not do anything crazy or don't go away, like, even though I was bullied and spit on and some really awful things, but that I had friends there to hold me
Yeah.
up. And so I wanted to celebrate these women, not only in my own life, but the ones that I've had the privilege to write for. And then ultimately, it ended up being about my one true golden girl, which was my mother, who passed away 4 years ago. And she was my biggest cheerleader and always in my corner. And you know, you know, went through a lot to get me to NYU and to follow my dreams. And she kept saying, "If that's what you want to do, I'll work hard. I'll make the money somehow. We'll get you there."
Yeah.
And she really, really believed in me. And I feel like she's kind of watching over me now.
Well, and also because of that, I mean, I've always feel this. I have a similar mom, and I feel like in everything that we do, because of that influence, we are reflections of that and her in some capacity in every little thing we do. And some of it's cringe, I'll admit, for me, but some of it is also really heartwarming and lovely. And I think it's in all of your work. And fortunately,
Did
we
she
get
wear
to
that nail polish?
she does wear the nail polish. Yes, she loves the nail polish. But I think for you, your mother then becomes a part of your work. And because of that, we get to celebrate your mother because we get to feel that in some way. So it's a continuing domino effect of a testament to how great moms are, I think, in a lot of ways.
And they should be celebrated because I know a lot of people and young artists don't have family behind them. And so when you do, just really thank them. And my mother introduced me to independent movies. And
Yeah.
as a young kid, she knew I loved Lily Tomlin. And she took me, I was 12 years old, to a Now meeting just because Lily was performing at a Now meeting. It was like all these women and these two kids, me and my sister. And I was
Yeah.
probably, one of the few uh, males, probably the only boy there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I got to tell Lily Tomlin that story.
Isn't she amazing? I mean, that's
Uh,
to me, she's incredible. She's incredible. But I also my mom had a similar thing where there were no restrictions on what I could watch or read. It was just sort of if I wanted to, but if everyone was going to see the latest Disney movie, I was going to see The First Wives Club. I mean, that was just sort of the expectation of what was going to happen. And God bless moms like that who let their kids be a little weird and explore the things they want to explore because they turn out like us and we've turned out okay.
I think so. I mean, we're spreading our little weirdness with a lot of joy and love and
Yeah.
support. And so I feel because I don't have my own children that, that's I think why I gravitate towards theater where I create these little families and we get very tight and
Yeah.
I still keep in touch with all my little groups.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Stan, you're fantastic. Everyone should get the book. Where can they get the book and where can people follow you?
Amazon, zimmermanstan.com, Instagram, Facebook, not the other one. Um, I do a little bit of TikToking. I watch a lot of TikToking. I should make
Same.
more videos, but I do answer everything. So find me if you have thoughts. I love hearing what the show meant to people out there. Actors get that feedback a lot because they are known. No one knows me. So it is so cool as a writer to hear the experiences that people got to share with their grandmothers or different people
Mhm.
with this show like Golden Girls.
And everyone should. Thank you, Stan, so much for doing this.
Bye. I'll see you soon.